Welcome to Offline Podcast with John Jackson, your host. We're missing one person this week, and that's the ball love. Hey, please like and subscribe to join the Offline team. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions for us. Please visit the offlinepodcast.com to connect with us further. Welcome everybody to the first podcast, and today's first segment that we're going to have some really good discussions with, or should I say bring back some good memories. And one of the first questions is the first day in the league in the 80s. Well, my first year was in 88, and I was the 10th round draft pick, so I had to really bust my hump to make the team. So it wasn't like that I had a spot on the team. I had to make sure that I went in there fighting, clawing, spitting, doing whatever I had to do. And at that time, the Steelers were not as good as they are today and not as good as they were then. But we had a rough time getting back to where we needed to be. And I spent the first 4 years with Chuck Noll, and I spent 6 years with Coach Bill Cowher. And that was my experience in Pittsburgh. But getting to the next question is the first fight in the game or in the locker room? No, it was actually in practice. If you were a Pittsburgh Steelers, you did a lot of fighting. And it didn't matter where you did the fighting at, but you got fined for the games, but you didn't get fined in practice. So my first fight was probably my first year. You know, things get a little heated up and people kind of lose their tempers, and, you know, we throw some fists. But at the end of the day, we walk off and we respect each other. And that's what it's all about.
Nice. Let's move on. Let's move on to the topics. We're only going to do one or two of those a week. You know, so that's okay. That's our first down segment right there. And again, my name is Jordan Jackson, son of John Jackson, and I'm here stepping in for Duvall.
He's my good-looking son.
Check that on the box. Yeah. Okay. Check so cool. Yeah. So the first and foremost, we want to send prayers out to the family of Patriots running back James White. He the loss of his father, Miami-Dade PD captain Tyrone White in a fatal car crash off duty. So we want to first and foremost, you know, send prayers out to his family.
Yes, we do, and we want to make sure that they know they're in our prayers and we're thinking about them. So, next thing, we're going to go a little around the league, as we would say. We're going to talk about Justin Herbert, who took over for Tyrod Taylor, who was out with a chest injury. Herbert stepped in, and he performed. He had a breakout. And the thing about him being 22 years and a rookie, Herbert for the Chargers would go on with that defense of the champions, the Chiefs. He threw for 311 yards and 2 TDs. He joins Luck and Newton as the top quarterbacks to throw in 300 more yards in their first game. I mean, even though it wasn't his start, he came off the bench, but he did a great job. Harrison Buckner, Kansas City kicker, kicked 2 field goals, 58 yards. He kicked 2 58 field goals.
Yeah, and so
that's kind of crazy. The same number.
Yeah, same number, and the last one was to save the game. And that's why they lost. I mean, Justin Herbert had a great game. Then all of a sudden, here comes Buckner to rob it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I still think that the kid needs to. They kind of need to tone him back a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't put him in there as a starter. I will let Taylor go back in and finish the season. and make sure that this kid understands how to be a pro. And I think that most guys don't understand. If you've got that luxury of somebody you can watch and watch their mistakes, makes you just that much better down the long run. Because if you go in there and you get your confidence kind of, shoved up your butt every once in a while, it's only so many times that your confidence can go up and down. You got to go in there on an even kill week in and week out. And if you can learn from a vet like Taylor, I mean, you last a long time. I mean, you look at all the really good quarterbacks who've lasted a long time. They didn't start their first year, and that's the point, because they learned their craft, and that's a big thing. And it's good.
It's good. And so let's move on. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's move on to the Cam versus Russell game that happened Sunday night. And so what did you see in that game that caught your attention as like a prelude to the rest of the season for Cam and also Russell?
Well, I think that Cam had a great game. I felt bad at the end of the game. They ran that quarterback sneak, I think, 4 times. Those guys ain't rocket scientists, but they can figure things out when they see different formations, and they see the same formations and the same people in the formations. So they know where the ball's coming. I mean, yeah, they did the one quarterback sneak where they kind of dumped it off. That was brilliant. But those defenses see the same thing. They're gonna make a decision to make the play, and that's what they did. But on the other side of the ball, I think that Russell, outstanding. I mean, the man is the man. I mean, he can run, he can throw, and he's got good receivers who catch the ball. So, I mean, doesn't get any better than that. Plus, he's got some good running backs back there. I mean, they've got the complete package. The only thing that worries me, and we'll talk on this a little later about, guys getting hurt. If they can stay healthy, and especially up to that 14th game going into that playoffs, I think they're going to be probably the team to beat, because they've got everything. They got every element, and especially special teams. They're really good on special teams. And you got to win, it's special teams, offense, and defense. You got to win 2 out of 3. And I think they can win 3 out of 3.
Yeah. Excuse me. Definitely, they can win 3 out of 3, because like you mentioned there too, like the defense is something to look out for, and has been a threat for the last 4 years. So also birthing stars through their system. So yeah, definitely something to look out for.
Mm-hmm. So let's do the Brady bounce back. Now, do you really think Tom Brady was going to lose 2 games in a row?
No,
I don't think so. I don't care what team Tom Brady's with. Tom Brady's not going to lose 2 games in a row. And Tom Brady had a big chip on his shoulder because everybody was pointing out what Tom Brady couldn't do. That's not the person you want to tell what he can't do, and tell him like, oh, you're not putting the ball here, you're not putting the ball there. Oh, Tom Brady had a game, and he was fired up. And Tom Brady's a pro. I mean, 20 years in the league. Think about that, George. 20 years. I mean, I spent 14, and I'm like, I'm tired of thinking about 14, but 20, you gotta be, you gotta be a real man to go 20. So he had a great game, especially they won 31-17, and it was a good game. I mean, he threw for 217 yards and 1 TD, but they had some rushers. And they played defense, and the Bucs played defense. And it seemed like, when you have 4 takeaways on a defense, you're playing some good ball.
Yeah.
You're playing some good ball. I mean, 4%. I mean, 4. You got to think about this in the National Football League. You can tell if somebody's going to win the game by turnovers, because it's like 1 is 25% they'll lose, 2 is 50%, 3 is 75%, and 4 times it's normally 100% that you're going to lose that ball game. You turn the ball 4 times. Mm-hmm. So that was evident in that game.
Can't win Definitely. A game with turnovers.
No, you can't. So let's go into Leonard Fournette. This man rushed for 103 yards, and he was a great support with Tom Brady, and he looked like a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like he shot out of the cannon once and had a long run, but they looked like they were playing up to Tom Brady standards. And people might say, oh, you're giving him too much depth. No, Tom Brady's got a high standard.
Yeah.
And if he can get those guys on his page, and especially if he can get the whole team on his page, they're going to be a different team. Yeah. And that's what you saw from week 1 to week 2.
But speak to the offensive line to what Brady does to offensive line when he steps behind it.
Well, I think Brady's not going not be where he's supposed to be. Every pass play, there's a spot that the offensive line knows that quarterback's going to be at. Brady's going to be in that spot. So it tells the offensive lineman, you can't let your guy get to that spot. And maybe they do a 3-step drop. A 3-step drop, the quarterback's going to get the ball out quicker. A 5-step drop, he's going to get out a little bit slower. A 7-step drop, you better block forever because that's a long way back there. So you need to – that's what they used to tell us. You better block forever. Just hold him, do whatever you got to do. So that's – like I said, that was a good bounce back for Tom Brady, and we're going to look forward to some bigger games with Tom Brady because I think if that team's on the same page, I think that team's going to be contending for the championship.
Okay, yeah, because they have good skill players. They got some good wide receivers for them to pass through. They got some good run. They got a good running back team. So
they just got to get. They got to get Bronk involved in the offense, though. I mean, Bronk did a lot of blocking yesterday, but Bronk likes to catch the ball and score touchdowns. But, you just got to figure he's going to be in the mix sooner or later. And as long as he's healthy, and that's his big thing, his Achilles heel is, he gets injured. And if he can stay healthy, I think that team's going to be awesome.
Speaking of injuries, a great segue here. Giants' future look like for Saquon Barkley. He's out with a torn ACL.
I tell you, it's going to be tough sledding for the Giants because they were counting on Barkley this year, especially as that main running back. And if you don't have a horse back there, it's going to be a slow race. It's going to be a real slow race. So you got to figure if they can't find somebody to replace him, then that horse might come in dead last. Yeah. And like I said, it's a long race. It's a long race. I mean, you got 16 weeks plus one off week, so 17 weeks. So you got to figure what are we going to do? But then you got to figure, next year, does he come back? And how good does he back from that injury? There's a lot of question marks is going to be answered between now and then. So they've got tough sledding ahead of them. So, and especially losing 17-13, and tell you what, the cornerbacks, the corners look really good. They really defended the secondary, and the Bears look. I was like, wow, these are the Chicago Bears. I mean, Trubisky was looking like really good back there, but Trubisky had some really good offensive line play this weekend because his offensive line protected. Just like the last touchdown pass they threw. Oh, he was phenomenal back there. I mean, the man was back there taking tickets, like at a movies. I'll take your ticket, I'll take your ticket, I'll take your ticket, like sitting at the front door. So it's just a matter of if the Bears can continue to do what they're doing. And I don't see why not, especially with that defense. But the offense has to show up. And I think special teams is another element that they had some problems in the first week. And the second week, it kind of bit him a little bit. But I think they bounced back because they scored some points.
Yeah, so would you say that the Bears offensive line would be a highlight for this week?
Yeah, I would, because if you give Trubisky enough time, and I think in years past he was running scared, and you look in the first 2 weeks, they gave him some time to throw. He made some throws, but that's just like any quarterback. But in order to be good in this league, you got to have a good offensive line because you got to protect the quarterback, but you got to run. You got to run block, and if you don't have those two elements, it's the season's, like I always say, the season's long. The season's, you can't wait for the season to get over with if you're dealing with that. You just can't. But, that's why they go to training camp and they do all those off-season workouts. And we'll talk about training camp as well. But it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, also keeping going with the injuries in the league, it's been quite a bit. For the Broncos, they lost their starting quarterback, Drew Lock.
Mm-hmm. Drew Lock, and they lost him because Dupree hit him pretty hard. Dupree blasted him. Had a quarterback sack, forced fumble, and he's the seventh quarterback to start since Payton Manning in 2015. It's going to be that's 7. I mean, you think we're in the 20s now, so that's 5 years. That's a lot of quarterbacks going through there. And now they got Jeff Driskel, who's going to be their 8th quarterback. They got some problems if they can't keep that quarterback healthy. And you got to blame it always on the offensive line because Dupree's a defensive end. So I'm not pointing names, but left tackle, you got to step your game up. I've been there, done that. That's why I'm doing a podcast instead of blocking. So I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah.
True. Yeah. And so then that brings us to the worst story of them all. San Francisco 49ers, they suffered 5 injuries. 5 injuries in 2 weeks.
And I feel bad for San Francisco. It feels like they stepped on a landmine, especially with their quarterback Garoppolo. The running back, the defensive end Bosa, and they had 2 running backs go out and 1 defensive end go out. So to have that many losses, and those are probably 4 starters you definitely need on that team. It's one of those things where I wouldn't say good luck, but I definitely would say they're not lucky because have those very many people go down in the first 2 weeks. It's not good. So hopefully those guys can bounce back. I know Bosa might be out for the season. Garoppolo was kind of limping. He was limping around. I don't know about the 2 tailbacks, what their situation were, but it seems like all the injuries were lower extremities. So you just never know what's going on. And, the teams aren't going to tell you until probably tomorrow, Tuesday. And they'll come out with a medical report that tells you their injured list. And you just got to kind of go from there. Unless you're out indefinite, then they would say something. But, that's why I always say that it is so important to have a preseason. And you don't have to have 4 preseason games. You don't have to have 3 preseason games, but you have to have 2 because you've got to get back into football shape. And that's what people don't understand. Football shape and practice shape are 2 different things because football shape means that, you're ready for the game. You're ready for game speed. Practice means you can understand what you're about to do in the game. But you got to have that element and you got to have that mindset. And the body's just not wired to go out and play 16 straight games without a preview. So, my thing is just have 2 games. Just have 2 preseason games. I know we had COVID-19 and we really couldn't do anything about that. But I think in the future, I hope these guys see what the benefits are because you need that dress rehearsal, especially down the road. And especially if you want these guys to stay healthy year in and year out. you got to play preseason. You got to bang them up a little bit, and they don't play that much in the preseason, but they play enough where their body starts to get used to it. But then you look at some of those other games, especially yesterday in the second half. Those guys were tired. They were tired. They were tired because they didn't have that opportunity in their mind to say, okay, now we need to push this. They were tired because their minds were saying, it's been a long day already, and I was tired from last week, which 2 weeks in a row, to me, they're on their second preseason game, and their bodies are now starting to get used to it. But now I think their minds are starting to get used to it, and that's a different thing. That's a different thing, and that's something
we have an update. I have an update here. Garoppolo, he suffered a high ankle sprain, and then Raheem, the running back, he suffered a sprained MCL, and then Coleman, he suffered a knee injury.
Yeah, Raheem probably out for the season. Coleman, I mean, he might be out 6 weeks. Garoppolo, I mean, it's hard to be a quarterback with a high ankle sprain. It's just, I mean, it was hard for a lineman backing up, but it's really hard for a quarterback to start moving around back there.
Yeah,
and you just don't have it.
Yeah, use those legs to throw off of too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've been watching a little football, Jordan, huh?
Yeah, a little bit throughout my life. Just a little bit.
You've been to a few football games, huh?
Yeah, just a couple,
A couple?
Probably over 100.
I would say probably over 100 too.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a great place for you to buy cigars. It's called Bell's House of Tobacco, located in Cincinnati. Bell's House Tobacco has been in business for over 20 years, and I've known Bell's House Tobacco for 20. And had a lot of great cigars there with the owner, John. Just a great place to go buy a cigar, but also to get knowledge as far as different cigars. Believe me, you will enjoy smoking a cigar from Bell's House Tobacco. And plus, he will give you a education as far as pairing it with different beverages, especially your favorite. One of my favorites is root beer. Believe it or not, root beer and cigars do go along together. You might not believe it, but it's true. The flavor enhances the cigar and gives you a great flavor overall. But try Bell's House Tobacco. How you can get in touch with them, they're in Cincinnati. Below me is the phone number and the email address. So hey, if you want a great cigar, try Bell's House of Tobacco. So let's talk about something positive now. Jordan. Let's take all the negativity and just shove it on the wall. We're going to shove it on the wall.
Okay.
Let's talk about Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers.
There we go.
He had a breakout game against the Detroit Lions. 168 yards rushing, 68 yards receiving, and 3 TDs. And he looked good. He looked good doing it too.
Yeah.
He looked really good doing it too. But it helps when you got a good quarterback back there who can sling it. It really
takes pressure off of you, lets you shine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and especially when you can bust one for 75 yards for a TD.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Boy, that's an offensive lineman's dream, Jordan. You know what's his offensive lineman's dream? Because he ain't got to put his hand back down and hit somebody else. all you got to do is take his. All you got to do is take his fat butt down there and hug on the guy and go, "Thank you."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, because if you think about it, like it's it's 75 yards. Y'all don't have to block for.
No, that's just like a long pass. We would go, oh, okay, that film session gonna be real quick. That series over. Now we gotta look at the other 14 play series. It's like, oh, you rather have 1 or 14? I'll take the 1 and get out of there.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. So
also. What do you want to talk about next, Jordan? What do you want to talk about next?
Oh, what you gonna say?
No, I was gonna move on to the next topic.
Oh yeah, no. I wanted to go with I wanted to kind of bring it back a little bit to what you were saying, about what's hindering this season, which is obviously COVID-19. And so, with no fans in the stands, like, how does this affect the game? Because I know you've never. I mean, you and mostly everybody have never played with no fans in the stands. I mean, maybe some blackout games, but
no, not even blackout games. You still have fans in the stands. But I think the big thing about fans in the stands is, especially if you're on the road, you use that home team uses that to their advantage. The road team kind of suffers a little bit because now they got to concentrate and they got to be on the same page. But if you communicate to the guy next to you, then it's a home game. And that's what you've been seeing in these first 2 weeks with fans. Yeah, they might have had, 15,000 here, 7,000 here. I think Kansas City had about 7,500, and there were some other teams that had 15,000, but half capacity, quarter capacity. But it also takes kind of the mojo out of it too. You're used to the fans pumping you up, and you could go out there and be really, like, I wouldn't say not geeked up playing ball. I'm saying the passion might not be as high as it is when the fans are there, because you play for the fans.
Yeah,
you play for the fans. So that's a big key with no fans being there.
Yeah, when
and especially
Kansas City hit that game winner, that game winning field goal against the Chargers, it kind of sounded like a little high school game where it was like a maximum amount of like you should be excited for this. But it wasn't that much noise. Yeah. They all jumping
all you
around
heard
and
was
shit.
like crickets. All you heard was crickets. Like, all
right, yeah. That's a pretty big deal.
Up on the speaker. Yeah, it's a big deal. But you know what? It's just that enthusiasm that people bring to those games. And yet, as a player, you really didn't get into it, but you knew it was there. You knew it was there. People would ask me all the time, "Do you hear the crowd?" It's like, not really, because I'm trying to concentrate so much on what I'm doing, and especially I don't want this guy to knock my block off. So you better be focused, and you want to make sure that you're on the right page. There was a couple times when people would always ask me, it's like, it looked like you guys didn't know what you were doing, and it'd be like three of us, and I'm like, because we didn't. We had no clue what the hell we're doing. I mean, when you hear the fans, and Seattle's a great point, because Seattle's fans are probably the loudest fans of any outdoor stadium I've ever been to. That 12th man is no joke.
Wow.
I mean, that in Kansas City. Kansas City used to be the spot, but I think Seattle's probably taking that over. But
yeah,
you can't talk to the guy next to you. I mean, he'd be right there, and you'd be like, you have to really get in his ear and say, "Hey, you know what? This is what we're doing, okay?" But unless you play with a guy long enough that you can make some adjustments going up to the line, and that's what you need to do. But it's hard. It's hard. But I think it's a lot easier now. But do you want to continue to play in that atmosphere? No, because football is all about fans. And yeah, they got some crazy fans, and that's what football is all about. People enjoying themselves watching football. So
yeah. Well, how long do you think it's going to last?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't see them having a full stadium this year. I feel bad for the people who have tickets but can't make it to the games. Hopefully they rotate the people at the different games.
Yeah.
So everybody gets a chance to go to the games.
Yeah.
But I just don't see them doing that, because I think they don't want to take the chance long term. God forbid somebody gets sick, and this COVID's no joke if you get it. But everybody's like, well, what if I don't get it? Well, if you don't get it, then you're going to be okay. But if you get it, there's some problems. And especially with the underlying issues that people have, you just got to take those in considerations, and just do what they want you to do. Wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance. Okay. It's just like driving a car. You put your seatbelt on all the time. Yeah. You might forget to put that seatbelt off one time and get in a wreck, and I guarantee next time you put that seatbelt on. So, what we got next, Jor?
So we're moving on to Deon Sanders. A big congratulations to Deon Sanders. He's now the head coach of Jackson State and HBCU.
Mm-hmm. And did you know your dad was recruited by Jackson State?
No, I did not.
I was recruited by Jackson State. It's the school that Walter Payton went to, and his brother Eddie's a real good golfer. He coached their golf team, won I don't know how many titles, but they've got a really good program there, and hopefully Deon can bring some good value to that school, because it's a great institution, and good luck to Deon on becoming that head coach at Jackson State.
Awesome, yeah, and I'm also seeing this is a trend, or not necessarily a trend. I don't want to call it that because I don't want to dilute the situation of big time talent, like top tier D1 talent, making a push toward going to a HBCU and pretty much bringing the money there instead of to these other schools that have gotten it, time and time again, just through their profile. And so just boosting the profile of those schools and having, Deon as a coach to help scout those top tier and help make it more attractive for them to come, and also for it just to become a thing for people to consider the HBCUs as an option for education and athletics.
Well, I think HBCU schools always been an option. You look at back in the day where Black kids couldn't go to those universities, and all those great athletes that were at those HBCU schools did a great job in school and athletics. You look at the NFL in the earlier days, a lot of those guys came from historical Black colleges, and that's what people don't realize. Without those colleges, there really wouldn't be the NFL of the day. Because think about this: when you were growing up, when I was growing up, one of my favorite persons to watch was Mean Joe Green.
Yeah.
Even though Mean Joe Green didn't go to an HBCU school, but the rest of the guys who played on that steel curtain did. Like Ernie Holmes. Trying to think now. I'm having a fart. L.C. Greenwood and Dwight White. And those three guys went to HBCU schools. So, like I said, the talent was always there, but I think that with Deon going back, he can bring more recognition to those schools. And Deon's going to get some good recruits. So, whatever the conference name is, I'd be worried about that conference because Deon's coming to win. He ain't going there to lose.
No, he's not. He's not going there to play around. He's going in to make some changes. Because I was looking in the article that came out, one of the articles that came out, and they had let go of the previous coach for going 4-8, and they haven't had a winning season since 2013.
That's a long time. So I think they're looking to make sure their program steps up, and I think you got to get people who can step it up, and I think Deon could step it up. So
that's good.
Next,
okay, so
what's next, Jordan?
So I had an interesting thought. I know that you played with Kordell Stewart, and he was kind of one of the first athletic quarterbacks in the game, as far as like being mobile and being, very flexible, like being able to catch a pass and throw a pass, and also, run the entire offense. And so it's a kind of a lot of what we see today and the quarterbacks that shine. Even in like our first topic, Justin Herbert, he got one rushing touchdown. He's a mobile. He has mobile capabilities, and it's just like an additive into the game. And he's a rookie this year, so he's kind of on brand of what the quarterbacks we've seen in the league today, like Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson, and a lot more. Having that mobility portion of their game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that Kordell kind of brought more than that because his nickname was Slash. What a lot of people forget, Kordell punted. He did kickoffs. No, he did kickoff returns. It was a great receiver. I mean, he had one hell of an arm. I mean, he would throw the ball so hard in practice that guys would literally get bruises through their shoulder pads. He was throwing that hard.
Damn.
Great on, but Kordell he was a smart guy. And it was one of those things where, they wanted Kordell to be a receiver, but Kordell wanted to be a quarterback. And guess what? Kordell was a quarterback. So he got his wish. But as far as athletic ability, probably the best athlete I've seen as far as quarterback. Because we were down in Carolina, and we did a bootleg, and there are 4 guys that have the angle on Kordell, and he ran right by him. He tough. It was like he was running because he was about to get hit, and I'm like, go squinting, like, oh, he's about to get blasted. Next thing I know, he is gone. He was gone. Touchdown. So I was like, he's fast too. So besides he can throw the ball and run, he's fast. He was fast. He was faster than he looked. And that's what I don't think people understood, because they would cover him as a receiver and he'd be right by people. And they're like, oh man, this can't be. He's a quarterback. How does he outrun the DB? He outrun the DB. He was that quick. So, wow. I mean, you got a lot of guys like that. Kyler Murray's quick. Lamar Jackson's quick. I mean, Russell Wilson. I mean, those guys are in the same mode. I think that Kordell was probably the first quarterback, and especially being athletic and being black, because at that time there were not a lot of black quarterbacks. Okay, yeah. But as far as athletic ability, I mean, those 3 guys, and there's a couple more guys, younger guys that are coming up. They've got that athletic ability. It's just a matter of time for them. Like Kordell, they got to get in there and play. And once you get in there and play, and you show people what you can do, then you pretty much set your own ticket. You write your own ticket, and that's what Kordell did. And once he got in there, he wasn't gonna get out, because if you win, you got a winning quarterback. You got a winning team. They don't change quarterbacks. They try to get people around you that can help you.
Yeah, and so with that type of quarterback, what does it take for like as an offensive lineman? Like what type of line do you need to support that type of quarterback? Because I've seen Lamar against the Texans getting a couple sacks, but I think that also does come with them being mobile. But just speak to the what type of offensive line you need to suit that type of quarterback.
Well, I think you need an offensive line that's athletic. You can't have those guys that are so, as we just call it, top heavy. They were so strong, but they couldn't run. I was with Pittsburgh. We had a really good athletic offensive line. All the guys could run. The guards definitely could run. Damani played with, he could definitely run. And all the tackles that Carr had in the era that I was there, his first 6 years, we could all run. So that's what you need with that type of quarterback. And plus, all you got to do is just make sure you stay in front of that guy or block him, and let Kordell figure it out which way he's going to go. And then when he starts running, go block somebody. But like I said, you got to be athletic enough to do that. To
go to that next level, to block the linebacker, corner, so such.
Or to block somebody.
So, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today.
And I do want to say something in closing. We joke around a lot, especially in that first preview tape, and I kind of had not a come to Jesus moment, but as far as the language I used, I kind of thought about Zen. I want Zen to watch this. So I want to be very conscious of what I say in the future as far as my language, because I want Zen to watch this, and I want kids to watch it, but I want Zen to understand who his grandpa is. So my language the first time was our version of locker room talk. And that's what it was. That's how we talk in the locker room. But besides that, I'm looking forward to doing this. And we are going to have some guests, but we're never going to announce our guests. We're just going to bring them on. So the next show, hopefully, we will have some interesting people. And we'll make this a very interesting podcast. Jordan, I thank you so much for filling in for the ball. The ball's kind of going through it right now, and
no problem.
Our prayers are with the ball, and until the ball come back, you're gonna be with me, and we're gonna rock this. Okay?
For sure. Yeah, let's get to it.
So I gotta go smoke my cigar, dude. I got one to go. I got one cigar. So make sure we run that ad, or make sure we run that ad for bells. Okay. I love you, and people, we will see you soon.